Well, candid and controversial. We turn now to the release of Harry and Meghan's tell-all new series on Netflix. In the first 3 episodes, which dropped just a few hours ago, the Duke of Sussex compared his wife to his late mother, Princess Diana. He also accused the royal family of, quote, unconscious bias during the time leading up to the couple's decision to quit the institution early in 2020. Netflix opens the docuseries with a disclaimer saying Buckingham Palace, quote, declined to comment and be involved in the series. CNN royal correspondent Max Foster reports.
Hi, so we're here on...
It's been billed as the first-hand account of the relationship between Harry and Meghan, their families and the media, and in their own words. The first 3 episodes of the Netflix docuseries on the couple dropped in the early hours of this morning, and it returned to some familiar themes.
And that sort of press pack of royal correspondence is essentially just an extended PR arm of the royal family.
Harry comparing Meghan's experience to that of his mother, Diana's. He feared she would be driven away by the media harassment.
As far as a lot of the family were concerned, everything that she was being put through, they had been put through as well. So it was almost like a rite of passage. And some of the members of the family was like, right, but my wife had to go through that. So why should your girlfriend be treated any differently? Why should you get special treatment? Why should she be protected? And I said, the difference here is the race element.
Ultimately, Harry says, he had to leave the UK to protect his family.
I accept that there will be people around the world who fundamentally disagree with what I've done and how I've done it. But I knew that I had to do everything I could to protect my family.
Hey, Grandma. Yeah. Hi, Grandma.
Especially after what happened to my mum.
Yeah. That's your Grandma Diana. Yeah.
You know, I didn't want history to repeat itself.
We heard from Meghan's mother for the first time.
And I remember when I first met him, too. You know, he was just like 6'1", handsome man with red hair. Really great manners.
Harry says when he introduced Meghan to his family, they didn't think the relationship would last.
The actress thing was the biggest problem, funny enough. There is a big idea of what that looks like from the UK standpoint, Hollywood, and it's just very easy for them to typecast that.
The couple say they felt unprotected by the palace against a barrage of media attacks. The palace is yet to comment.
Well, Max Foster joins us now from London. Good to see you, Max. Interesting seeing there's a lot of video journaling. It makes me wonder how far back they thought they might release something like this. From what you've seen so far, the first 3 episodes, any major revelations, anything that really surprised you?
There wasn't the big bombshell, but there's still 3 episodes to come next week. This part of it seemed to be, you know, a part of the history, really, how they got together, what their relationship is, and how they struggled with coming out publicly as a couple, and then looking ahead a bit to how they were going to deal with it. I think the next 3 parts will be about how they finally realised they couldn't handle this anymore and eventually left, and the struggles with actually leaving the system and the reaction that they got to that. But a lot of the narrative is, you know, they fell in love. She trusted Harry to look after her, and he struggled to do that. There are some insights into the family. For example, they describe how William and Kate came around for dinner when they first met. Meghan was very informal, they were very formal. She says they were formal on the outside, but they were also formal on the inside. So there is some vague criticism there. Certainly no compliments to any members of the royal family, apart from Diana. Harry sees massive links between Diana and Meghan, you know, personally, but also in what they experienced.
And Max, I mean, Harry sort of said the press package, just a PR arm of the royal family. I'm wondering from your sources inside the palace, what are they saying about this?
Well, I mean, there is, you know, he talks about the royal rota, and this is a system where it's a pool, effectively. You can't have, you know, hundreds of cameras, hundreds of journalists going to every engagement. So the British media pool resources, and they'll send 1 camera and 1 reporter. What Harry was describing in the documentary is a system where the tabloids are part of the rota, apart from the Telegraph, which isn't entirely true because you've got all the broadcasters, including the BBC, in there as well. All the photographers are in there as well. But he suggested that there's a complicity there, that, you know, if the public pays taxes to keep the royal family going, then the royal family has a duty to expose itself to the media and effectively perform for the media. And that includes the tabloid media and the difficulties with going out performing in front of some journalists who might have written horrible things about you that day. So the challenges they found in that system and how they couldn't work in that system anymore, but they were told they had to live with it. Harry was told by men in the family that their wives had suffered in the same way, so therefore Meghan wouldn't be special and wouldn't get any special treatment. But he kept on coming back to the fact that she should receive special treatment because of the race issue. She was being attacked on her race, which other members of the family weren't.
And just quickly, there was a disclaimer at the start of the docuseries saying that the palace didn't want to be involved, didn't want to comment in this series. Is that the case?
I have no idea. Initially, we heard from some sources in the palace that there had been no approach to any of the palaces or any members of the royal family. Then we had another source from a different palace saying there had been a vague approach, but they couldn't verify it, so therefore they didn't respond. So not really sure what happened there, but certainly the royal family weren't involved in this in any way, and they're not making any public comments today.
All right, Max Foster staying across it for us from London. Good to see you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, still to come, the news Brittany Griner's wife has been waiting for the basketball star on her way home after a prisoner swap was confirmed between the US and Russia. We'll have full details on our breaking news.